We're gonna have just a couple questions and then move on to Mouchy over here. Does anyone seem to be ready to go?
So what do you see the value of like mobile apps and other digital tie-ins? Are they a way to show early, like we say in the angel space, social adoption or social proof, or to show there's an emerging market? And what do you see things like anime and transmedia, mobile tied-in projects? Like you have one that's already getting pre-funding from TV, a TV show coming out, you got a bankable star, and we're trying to figure out what the metrics are in our negotiations because they're already like put some money in. So we've already like pre-funded the app on a platform that does that. So you pre-sold units. How do you, have you looked at tying those in and how do they impact with the offline merch? Because we actually have content and books already being sold already in this content, live events. So that's the question we want to find out. How do you see those tying in what you're doing when you talk offline more?
I think that typically film producers and the major companies, from what I understand, see a lot of the transmedia as collateral, right? Marketing collateral and ancillary, properties that can work with their films to create engagement, long before the film screens, like Planet of the Apes, right? They had the web series out, and I think the film with Tom Cruise, War of the Worlds, had like even a sidewalk graffiti type of thing that they didn't reveal, for months. And so I think that for a while, I think that some people will still see it as that, right, as a part of the marketing budget. But I think that it will be kind of turning around soon, right? So that, and I know it is. I hear that it is from people that are in the know, right? Yeah. That projects are initializing as transmedia projects, right, with their multiple storylines and touch points. So.
Yeah, they're actually driving a lot of revenue for web-based ones. Yeah, a lot of revenue. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Could you briefly describe the types of investors you guys have, and are these people that solicit you, or they find out, are they people that say, I want to invest in film now, and what are my avenues to do that? You describe the bottom up, maybe you describe the top down a little bit.
Well, I know that a lot of these VC firms have managing directors or managing partners that handle distinct business units, right? I would say typically, most of them now typically have units like there's of course technology, clean tech, there's definitely media and gaming, and so I would say quite a few of them have come from the world of connecting through media, right? Mostly, I would say through the internet and media tech that's connected to their VC firms through that avenue. But I know that some of them have worked in completely different areas and have just always had an interest in film and production and have connected with some of these other investors. So.
Do you get a pretty good retention rate on these investors? Do they invest in one film and then come back and invest in another?
I think that we have. It's been kind of cyclic, right? It's definitely been kind of cyclic, and that's one of the things that I've been working on over the past year and a half is developing our business model so that it can work and supplement something like crowdfunding. So that it's not necessarily completely ad hoc, but people can contribute based on what they want in terms of participation. So that partly so that with film we can create something like the film funds that are in Hollywood, and not just in Hollywood, but everywhere else in the world, so that. We can take advantage of certain trends like the tentpole phenomenon, right? To address the risk of film, which has projects that fail 80% of the time. Big companies, will take on a slate, right? In hopes that maybe two of them, right, maybe 20% or so will have success and pay for all the other ones, and provide funding to push into other projects or to be leveraged.
Do you want to?
Do you have a ratio of what you're funding, whether it's like X amount of documentaries or do you have set guidelines?
We
What
don't.
types do you fund?
We don't at the moment. We don't. And most of the films and the producers and the investors, well, not just most, but they all sign confidentiality agreements, and most of them do not give up much information for different reasons. And but that's another big factor that I'm working to address, so that we can create some success stories with what we do here in the Bay. Right, just like KickStarter has plenty of success stories, like this $2 million project. So because it doesn't serve these investors to completely kind of make all the details secret. It doesn't. So some transparency, I think, would serve the cause.
You mentioned a lot of film projects, but what are you guys looking for specifically in transmedia-based projects, and how do you guys measure success with that, within your investors and your group?
Well, I think one of the biggest projects that I mentioned, or one of the most notable projects that comes to mind is the Guitar Man project, which has the documentary it's about the Guitar Hero phenomenon and the game industry as well. And it has the documentary, the TV show, and a web series, and I believe there was an app as well. But even when that came out just a few years ago, I know that in part it was seen as kind of an ancillary kind of collateral development move to create all of this supporting material, and I think that that's definitely going to change. Once there are some projects that basically are game changers, right? Game changing projects that I think will push the trend forward, right? And in terms of investments, I think that the investors usually look for something that is like a 115 to 125% return. And it really depends. Some of them are just interested in a 15 to 25% return. Some of them are interested in different levels of participation, and based on when you put your money in, or how much you put in, or just the way you structure the deal, different investors will get paid back at different times. So there's not necessarily a cookie cutter approach, but that's kind of the range.
So success is based off of your return of investment. By your return of investment.
At the moment it is, but I think that one of the principles or assets that we have here in the Bay Area is the concept of social capital, right? And I think that social capital is definitely partly through I guess you could say the advances in social media culture. Right? I think that social capital is more and more becoming a part of the media business model. And I think that that not necessarily just applies to views or eyeballs. I think that especially here in the Bay Area, with a progressive culture, right? I think that people have an understanding of the whole people, planet, profit concept.
And then as well, like the Guitar Man project you're talking about was, it sounds like it was initially pitched to you guys as a documentary, and then all the ancillary things that came with it just happened to also succeed. Is that true, or did they pitch the app first to you, and then it was like, oh, this app is great, we should also make a documentary, and we should also make this? I mean, it sounds like most of the projects you guys are doing are very, film-based in investment, correct?
Usually. But the Guitar Man project was pitched as a complete package, and the group started with a focus on film, but you know, I mean, it's definitely evolved, and we have had TV shows and websites and distribution platforms. So.
Great. Last question before we move on to Mouchy, or should we just move on? No?
I had a question about your group and whether or not you work for the San Francisco area, and are the VCs and those that invest in the films localized, or can you reach out and get a group in Seattle, an investment group in Seattle to support a project here in the area? How does that work?
It's not just localized. There are investors here in LA, Orange County, Seattle, Vancouver, and London at the moment. And so, you know, it's definitely possible, and definitely does happen where some of the members or advisors or investors, you know, connect producers with other investors that might be interested, or you know, have some type of an advantage with the project that they can bring to the project. So it's not just localized.
And you guys invest in only local projects?
No.
Okay. Great. So, Mouchy, want to move on and we'll get to more questions with Andre afterwards? So if you want to just go ahead and start and give us a little introduction of who you are. And
Hi. Justin asked me, can you guys hear me all right? I'm not
can you guys hear Mouchy all right?
Hello?
You can your mic because you know it works.
Hello? Oh, that's really loud. Can I just go up on this one? That one's scary.
Legit. Oh, yeah, right.
Okay. So Justin asked me to come by and show you Cicada, and I didn't realize until today that this was about making money. Sorry.
No, I mean, but it's not necessarily all about that. I think that's one of the reasons why I brought you here.
Yeah, I don't know anything about making money. I've raised lots of money. Cicada is a self-financed independent short film that I've been working on for about 2 years. It has cost me around $175,000, which I've raised totally by myself, well, with helps of people, etc., but we have no investors, we have no business plan. In fact, our business plan is to not make any money. Like, we're not going to sell anything, we don't have any aspirations, we're not trying to make money, we're just making something pretty. I used to work in advertising, and I used to work in the film industry for a long time. And about 3 years ago, I had kind of a early midlife crisis. Yeah, I think that's what they're called. I had denial about it for a long time. I thought that I was just awakening, but no, I just had a crisis and I freaked out. And so I quit. I just walked out. I was making lots and lots of money for people selling things I didn't believe in and working on projects that I thought actually made the world a worse place. Like every day I went to work, by the time I left, I made life shitty for someone else on the planet. Or I sold some crap that was going to get thrown in the river and clog up a sewer in Mexico. You know, it's like I was pushing the crappy lunches for kids, and, you know, and I drew the line at cigarettes, but really only drew the line at cigarettes because we don't do a lot of cigarette advertising in this country anyways. So I had a little moment, and I started this project with some money that I got from a well-paid investment bank job. And basically, I was working for these investment bankers, and I cleared about $12,000 in 4 days. That's the kind of money that you're playing with in advertising, and then I couldn't do it. I just like, you know what, I'm going to take this money and do something else with it. And so I did. I started making puppets. And when that money ran out, first I thought we could do the whole thing in 3 weeks. Yes, I got $12,000 in 3 weeks. Go! So in 3 weeks turned into 9, and that turned into about maybe 1/10 of what we were trying to do. You know, like our aspirations got bigger and our pictures got bigger. So then I tried this other approach where I was like, I'm going to Robin Hood this shit, and I'm just going to work as much as I can, I'm going to take the easiest, most well-paid jobs I can find, and I'm just going to suck money from these people. And I did, you know, I would dress up like one of them, and I would go to work, and I was the sheep in the wolf's clothing, dressed as a sheep as a wolf with wings, and I would just show up every day, yes sir, whatever I could do to just suck that money away. And that was, am I still there?
That's the only problem about this one. It's kind of, okay, try it again.
Hello, okay. Yeah, so I was doing that. At one point I was working 3 jobs at once, and I was making, I don't know, we were spending $10,000 every 4 weeks on Cicada, so I had a crew making puppets. At the same time I was working these jobs and just going out of my mind. I raised about $90,000 that way. Not recommended. Might make you feel crazy. If you can't tell, not quite right. So then I tried this other approach, the KickStarter piece. And we spent about 3 months putting this piece together that went online. And we raised, our official number on Kickstarter was $76,000. We asked for 40. We almost doubled it. In fact, we hit 40 in like 4 days. And, you know, and it took 3 months to make this piece.
Do you mind if I show it?
Yeah. Let's take a look.
I think one of the main reasons why I brought here...
I'm losing all of Justin's respect with my crackhead talk.
No, I love it. I mean, you'll see the video and we'll kind of talk about it, but I think it kind of speaks for itself. So if we just go ahead and get the lights and I'll show this video here.
This is Cicada Princess, a short film and book all made by hand. Through puppets photographed in a miniature world, we follow the lives of the cicadas as they emerge out of the ground for the big party at the end of their lives. My name is Mauchi, and I'm the writer and director of this piece. The story comes from my childhood and the memories of playing under the trees where the cicadas would sing. Cicadas spend almost their entire lives underground, with but the tiniest window to find their mates and purpose. In a way, a shorthand version of our own lives. This parallel has always resonated with me over the years and is the reason and inspiration behind the work. To make this film, my friend Steve and I built the studio from scratch. When we started working on the book in the fall of 2009, we wanted to do it all with photographs of his sculptures posed into miniature sets. There was something tangible about miniatures that we couldn't get from drawings, as well as the subtle shapes and imperfections that come from the artist's fingers. We shot our first picture on my kitchen table using a candle and a lighter. Although crude compared to where we are now, we were able to create an engaging enough image to convince ourselves that we could produce the work. With the help of the local stop-motion community, we started producing our first pictures in early 2010, and with those we were able to attract additional talent to the project. Most notably, Ray Gilberti joined that spring as director of photography. His credits include Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, as well as a 20-year career photographing miniatures for George Lucas. We are currently over halfway through production. Each set takes 6 weeks to make between our small crew and our 500-square-foot garage. To finish photography by September, we need to rent a bigger space and hire additional builders so we can be in front of camera every 4 weeks. At our current pace of acquiring funds and producing, we cannot finish in 2011, which is why we are reaching out to the community. In return for your support, we're giving away signed prints and books, models from the sets, limited edition puppets, as well as credits on the picture. Cicada for me has never been a commercial venture. I've always seen it as a gift, which is why I've given up so much to make it to date. Everyone on the crew has had to sacrifice something to make this piece possible, and it is important for us to maintain our independent spirit and create good things. Thanks for your support.
I totally want to support that.
Right? I mean, I had no money and I was like, I gotta support this. You know, it was like that moment of just, it was wonderful, so.
Yeah, it was, you know, I spent 3 months to put that thing together. We worked on the script, we worked on the edit, and just as I was about to put it out, well, one, that I had very negative feedback from my crew. They're like, this thing's really sad. And I'm like, well, the film is sad. I can't lie to people. I don't want to, you know, like, make it happy. I'm like, well, what if we make it happy? And then they go see it and they cry. Like, are we lying? But anyways, so I got this piece ready, and then the tsunami hit. And then I pulled it off. I was like, I can't do this. I can't go out in the world and ask for money when, you know, furniture is flying into people's houses and stuff. So we powered down and we just waited. And we waited about 6 weeks. And I was sitting in my place in West Oakland, and I was watching the news, and Brian Williams comes on, and he's like, weather across the country, cicadas everywhere. It's the biggest bloom of the century. And I'm like, okay, we'll put it out now. So we went live, and I spent, well, all of us spent probably the first couple of days going to everyone we know, and we said, look, every favor you've ever asked of me, every truckload of crap I moved from your house, pay us back. Now this is the one time we need it. And so pretty much every friend, every contract person, every employer I've ever had showed up with money in the first couple of days. And once we hit like 15, 20,000, we made it on the Kickstarter radar, which is what I was trying to do. And once we made it on the Kickstarter radar, they saw that they could make money from us, and they put us on the front page. We got on the front page by day 3. By day 4, we cleared 40,000. So that was for like, woo! And I got like a $3,000 check from Mr. Forbes, you know, the guy from Forbes magazine?
Steven?
Yeah, and then I got it at $3,000. I got 2 $3,000 donations, one from Mr. Forbes and one from this sweet retired old lady from Oakland that lives like 5 blocks from me. And I said, what are you doing? Yeah, so that was a Kickstarter thing, and it has been very successful, and it has spread a lot of goodwill about the project. We've had publishers interested in picking up the material. We've been too busy to follow it when you get there. We got Stephen Fry to join the project last year. If you guys know him, he's kind of important British actor of some kind. Most people in America are like, Stephen who? And people who know him are like, whoa! Yeah, so he saw the piece, he liked what we were doing, and we did the recording. And I can tell you what I've learned about money if you want, or we could just continue.
I mean, I think one of the amazing things from my end looking at this is that, you know, you're very honest. It's very beautiful work, and as somebody doing my own projects, I look at your work and I'm like, that is something that I would want to invest in. Like, I have no hesitation about just as soon as I can, because you know, especially on Kickstarter, you know, people have these like ideas. I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to get $10,000, call it a day. But it takes work, and you know, you're saying that you spent 3 months making this video. Yep. I mean, what was going through your process while you're making the Kickstarter campaign? I mean, what was?
Well, we started with the script, and the script was just what I wanted to tell people, which was, okay, this is me. This is what I'm doing. I'm not trying to do anything funny with your money. And we chopped that up, and I worked with some editors who took the project on. So like a real editorial company said, okay, we like what you're saying, we're going to do this for you. And once they cut a piece, one of the guys down at One Union said, okay, now we're going to score it and do the audio track because we like what you're doing. And then we just spent the rest of the time just polishing the pictures, because I'm very self-conscious about the work, and the work that you see in that piece is actually not final. So I have a really hard time showing people work in progress, and I'm hoping to finish. My producer's back there. I'm hoping to finish soon, so we can all take a break. It's been this kind of project. If you're not crazy when you start it, you will be crazy when you finish, because it takes so much from you. And you know, like I work other jobs. This is my job. Like. Other jobs are things that I do when I'm not working on this, right. And usually my brain's kind of always on this. And
where are you now with the project?
We have 6 more shoot days, so that's 3 more weekends. We just did a shoot up in Lagunitas last weekend, and I have some pictures from that if you guys want to see.
Yeah.
And then lots of posts and compositing and rod removal.
Yeah, well, the post is happening in parallel, so we should, in theory, finish relatively close together.
We start at the top and just bring it on down? I mean,
Yeah,
you can, go ahead.
let's kill the lights. You should just be able to hit the space bar. So this is the ballroom scene in the middle of the film where we see the bugs sort of dancing, and this actual ballroom is about 6 feet big, and we can't make puppets that small. So we shot this element last year. It's just a background plate. And you can go to the next one. Or you can just actually...
Yeah, space bar.
And these guys will be in the foreground at some point. They're kind of enjoying the party. And then to actually get the dancers in there, we had to build a larger platform. So this is what the ballroom looks like if the dancers are 10.5 inches tall. And this is what we were doing last week. And so this is a platform of paper tubes and balloons at a whopping cost of $43. And once we line it up to picture in camera, so it kind of generally fits the ballroom, we go one by one with our real puppets and we make them dance. And our puppeteers did 36 different positions. I think it was it was a lot of positions. It took a long time. What's that?
And then you loop that.
No, we shouldn't have to loop anything because we shot each performance at each place. So and there's 4 sets of couples. And this is going to be a nightmare to put together, but we'll get there. It's kind of the purpose of the film is we start small, and just when you're like, okay, they went too far, we really go really far, and then we come back down. So it was very important. We spent about $20,000 just on that shot.
Which shot?
On the ballroom. And this one I'm going to skip over. We can go to the middle of it.
Oh, you want to just go in the middle of it?
There we go. So this shot we did back in June or July. And this was our biggest set to date. It's 11 by 17. And you can see that it's pretty much crowding our space at the time. And all those people that you see are actually getting paid.
Well, that was something that you also chose to do, is that you made sure that like everyone who worked on this got paid, right?
Yeah, that's a lesson that I've learned from other projects, is that your costs are the same. So when you don't pay someone, you're externalizing your cost on somebody else's back.
Right.
So, and essentially that's going to run out because you're going to run out of friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you're going to wear yourself out. So what we've done with cicadas, we pay everyone that works for us. We track their hours. We pay. We don't pay great. You know, you're not going to retire on a cicada money.
And that's where the cost of all this comes from, is that you're actually paying these artists.
Yep. And you know, every time we open a camera, it's $3,000 just to open the camera. By the time you get the rental and the insurance and all that stuff.
What are you shooting with?
We're shooting with the red. So yeah, there's our set. We can cruise over to. It's really dark on that screen. I'm sorry. But we'll have all the dancers in there, and we're working on fireworks for the sky. And I have one pair of shoes, but I have a castle. And I'm working on a large miniature bridge. It's about 4 feet across right now. So if I'm ever homeless, I could sleep under my own bridge. So this is another scene that we did just this last weekend. This is the Princess at Dawn. So right before the sun breaks, we see the princess, and this is our marble set, and that's what the footage looks like. It's not playing back so great.
Yeah, it's definitely lagging.
But she's very, very pretty. And we spent a lot of time on that dress and her little thingies.
Well, so to kind of keep going with, like, you're saying that you're not doing this to try and get money, right? You're just trying to be able to cover the cost of it and then take it out there, right?
At this point, we're not really looking to get any money back. I think what's important is to be is to be done, and to show it, to have it be there, have it be real, and for people to go, okay, like, they can do it, we can do it, and keep sort of that non-greedy momentum moving forward as kind of a force of its own. Because I think, you know, part of the success of the Kickstarter video is that people empathize with our message, or the simple, what is the right word? Yeah, they connect with our message. Because if I'd gone out there and said, hey, I'm a greedy ass banker, give me some more of your money, I don't think that would have worked.
No, I don't think so.
You know, the idea is to maintain the spirit going forward. You don't care about the money.
Now that you've been through the Kickstarter process,
Can we get the lights back
this may
up?
sound a little cynical, but would you consider, even if your project was already fully funded, would you consider going through Kickstarter just to help build an audience and basically do it as like a pre-sale? You're pre-selling DVDs to an audience and help build a crowd. Do you think that would be worthwhile, or is that such a monumental effort to produce that it would be worth it?
I don't think it's a bad thing. You know, like, all of the energy that has come back from Kickstarter has been positive. Everyone that has come out has offered to help, or they've helped us with money. You know, when you go out there and you shake the universe with a stick, if you shake it nicely, nice things come back.
Right. Did you find yourself, like, people offering their time and effort and not just their money? Did you get any of that?
Yeah, we got some of that. We even got some stuff like very attractive young girls are like, hey, I'm driving up from San Diego and I'm going to move in at your studio and work for free. And I was like, wait, how did the puppets become Hollywood? Our casting couch is this big.
What did you see with the, you say you initially reached out to people, did you do that just with phone calls or stuff like that, or did you do more social networks, Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that, or what? What was your main
It was
method?
all email for the most part. I'm kind of a shy person, so I have a hard time getting on the phone. So it was all email and yeah, it's kind of, and Facebook as well.
Yeah. I know I saw it through Facebook, so we have mutual friends, and you know, the day it came out, it was like all of a sudden just everyone was talking about it, everyone was putting it out there. And I mean, and certainly the video speaks for itself to the point where you see it, it's like, wow, yeah.
I'm curious about the transition from what you find sort of a financial career to making films. Is it starting from scratch, or I mean, how did you develop these ideas and the expertise to actually jump into the field?
So the question is, talking a little bit about your transition from going to be a successful filmmaker working for other people to now doing your own projects?
Obviously, you have a lot of knowledge about how to do this and that. You know, we're starting from scratch, but I'm curious about how did this transition occur?
Midlife crisis?
Yeah, there was the midlife crisis, and the puppet stuff, we had no idea what we were doing. That's the honest truth. And the camera stuff, I still don't really know how to use that stuff. Like, that first picture that I took on the kitchen table was out of focus, but I know how to ping focus back in from having worked on movies. So, you know, even though my picture was crap, I sat in my closet and I'm like, and I made it okay. And I'm like, okay, we can really mess things up. I know how to fix stuff.
So you didn't have a background in film before that?
Yeah, I spent many years doing terrible, crappy films for Hollywood. I worked for Lucasfilm for a little bit. Not saying any of their films are crap. All of their films are precious. We had a saying at ILM, which is, you know, if we're working on a film, it's probably crap. Which is true. I mean, Men in Black 2 and Terminator 3 and all these kinds of things. And
Let's get one more question.
How long is your piece?
I believe our piece is 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes?
Yeah.
That's what, and how are you going to shoot? How are you going to put it out there?
Oh, the final product. The final product's actually closer to 4. We are going to go the festival route for the most part, generate viewership that way. We have not figured out how we're going to deliver it online, but that should be part of our process. Just because I think we'll reach more people that way. And the idea being that if we make it, people will go, hey, this is why you should go out on a limb and try stuff. Or if we terribly fail, give you guys a reason not to.
What is your message in that film? Do you have a message?
No.
Okay.
What about Cicada the Future?
We have talked about a sequel, Cicada Hunter.
So you said earlier, you mentioned what you learned about money or things like that. What is that? What was that?
Well, the one I brought up, which was that everything has a cost, and that cost is pretty much the same. If you're not paying for it, you're paying for it later.
Yeah.
So you might as well, if you can get the money up front and pay people right or pay people better, things will just move, and there's just a lot less drama. All right, see, I wrote down my other lessons. Do I have time for these?
You got time. I'll let you time.
Doing things hard makes things hard to do.
Pearls of wisdom.
Yes, and what I mean by that is when I was working 3 jobs to generate the income, it was really, really hard to produce the work because I was physically exhausted all the time. I could only look at pictures on my cell phone. You know, I looked like I had been shooting heroin all the time because I was emaciated, and you know, I would come home into my places, drop my pants, and pass out on the mattress. And while that worked, and I still have the instinct to do it because it's what I know how to do. I'm a bull. I go out there and knock things over. What I've learned is if you can step back, put your message together, and go reach the right people, you know, 1, you won't kill yourself like the Kickstarter stuff, and 2, like the momentum and the positive flow that comes from that versus being the angry man in your closet is exponentially more beneficial. And then the third lesson, which is the one that I still struggle with, and Sarah will agree that I struggle with all of these all the time, is you can't do it without help. You don't get help unless you ask for it. And that, I find myself in that place all the time where even with the support of the community, I'm still like, work. I'm going to drive the van up the mountain myself, and I will sleep in this van because, yeah, and I probably could have just asked somebody for help, and they probably would have helped me. Anyways, those are my lessons.
Excellent. One last question from Mauchi, and then we'll open it up for all the panelists.
Great. And actually, this is kind of a question for all the panelists, but I'd like to start with Mauchi. Hope was asking about distribution. And I'm wondering if you looked at, I've actually been doing some exploration for a friend at Bay Witham that is looking to distribute her film through iTunes or a common distribution. Now, as a game developer, I get 30%. As a filmmaker, you actually have to go through an aggregator to get into iTunes for distribution. Or you have to have had 5 feature films that have been released by Hollywood. And so it's one of those catches that we had heard about already. If you have a star, then you can get money. So, and then there's the secondary distribution of Jammin' for indies. And I'm wondering if you've looked at those and you know what your online plans are and how you're going to approach that. And then maybe the others can jump in on that as well.
That sounds smart. we are just getting to that point because we've just been buried trying to actually produce the work, but that's kind of been creeping in the background as to something we need to spend a lot of energy to figure out. I didn't know iTunes needed 5 feature films. I guess I'll change my name.
or you have to go through an aggregator.
Right.
And then that changes your percentage. So.
Which ones do you film versus music? Which are the aggregators?
Music, actually, you can get, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, but which are the aggregators for film?
Oh, only film. On iTunes, it's only film. Music, you can distribute directly through iTunes, and apps, of course, you can distribute.
Yeah.
But there's a number of them. You know, so. Oh, there's a number of them. I mean, it's just a list. If you go to iTunes.com, you can see the full list. But in any event, I'll actually put it back to you and say when I'm done with my research, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
But what are these guys?
Well, I know that IndieGoGo, which is local, IndieGoGo, which is essentially the San Francisco version of Kickstarter, has a company they bought in LA that specifically is to get video on platforms like iTunes, and they can even get you on Hulu, but I want to say it cost you like 20 grand to get on Hulu. It's really expensive. Last time I was looking at that. So there are some resources for that locally. But I know exactly who Stephen Fry is.
Good. Andre, do you want to mention anything? Or?
Well, I am working to get some of these projects that come through our group and potentially through this group as well to at least the platform distributor. It's called Distributor. And they have fees if you want it to be on Hulu, Netflix, and iTunes. And I think Distributor would be great. There's another one called, I think it's called IndiePix or IndieFlix out of Seattle. And they do something similar. And the way they work is that they take a percentage. And so I think that, it just affords another opportunity, for digital distribution with a lot of projects like, let's say, the Cicada Princess that might not have, another venue. It just, I think, streamlines, which is great.
Any questions for all three panelists? Does anyone? Yeah.
But what is the place and what have you seen for independent projects for product placement, other ways of bringing revenue? Because like for our game events, and some people even do live events, they actually have been generating revenue with ancillary stuff like books, CDs, and that led to them actually saying we need to do an app because we've got placement and reach for other partners. We make share rev through their web properties that actually have millions of users. Have you seen that as a part of a deal, and do you see that as something? Because I know, like for Tyler Perry's deal, most of the revenue, we know some guys who dealt with that with him, was because his live shows monetized so much. So the deal they got on TV show tie-in and also film was driven by the revenue from those other events, the live events. And that's something I'm wondering if you'd see in indie projects, because you can do live stuff around it that ties in. Like even this event right here, I know the guys who sponsored NOS. Anything game related, they'll fund the event. So have you seen that as a mix with the independent project you guys looked at? There was a mix with, based on your numbers you have in either YouTube, Twitter, online, or other numbers, structuring, able to access that if you get the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, what's the question?
Have you seen real-time live and other aggregated points of touch of large user bases, leveraging either product placement, indie content, or other types of tie-ins to help you plug in? Because the example I gave was how Tyler Player's deal with his TV movie deal was based upon the fact that his live roadshow tour of his plays and other things, live real events, had such revenue. They were looking to help him scale that on their platform. Just the numbers he was getting independently from the stuff he was doing, different churches and other places like small independent films. So have you seen that as a part of a deal, real-time numbers of revenue like that, helping to leverage it as a part of a mix even along with digital? Have you seen that or heard of that in any way?
I think I've seen it in people's plans, where people include information like that in their distribution plan. And but in terms of real-time numbers, I haven't seen much of that yet, because I think that these big kind of comprehensive transmedia programs or projects haven't really had reporting yet. I don't think, because usually that information is from at least a year ago, right? And I haven't seen much of it. I've seen it in the pre-production, but
well, I can't address that directly, but there's this is tricky. There is a sub-theme that's going on with some of this Kickstarter stuff. The two big projects last month are the Double Fine video game, which incidentally, you're going to find this really amusing. It's a video game and a documentary about making a game. So you're a guitar man, almost sounds like a Blueprint version. That's by a company that's been around for 10 years. The webcomic was around for 9. Mr. Modest over here doesn't want to talk about being on films like Hellboy and Sin City, apparently. That's bankable. That means you're real. You have a fellow from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, established properties. You're seeing, there used to be, when the crowdfunding first started, a little bit of a stigma with it from people who'd actually done professional work before, that they thought it was like panhandling. No, that doesn't exist here. So if you have a following, you've been able to cultivate a following, which is one of the leveling platforms of the internet, assuming we don't have some regulations coming down from the feds. If you can develop your following and plug that into it, you sort of make yourself bankable. We're starting to see a little bit of that.
Yeah, because if the law's going to pass, they already passed the House, they're going to do the $2 billion crowdfunding. It's going to go through. Question is how they're going to regulate it. One question also, just to follow on this. Sorry. Yeah, one question around that. We're seeing though, if you get to 5 figures, like either you sell an app or something like that, or you have a certain amount of people who come, you can leverage the sponsorship of your live event, or you can do an actual web, if you have enough views, because you've got those already, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, likes, you actually can leverage 4 figures for each sponsor. It's just there. And then you can do placement, because you can show the audience.
The example I talk about that, anybody here ever heard of a comic strip called Penny Arcade?
Yeah.
Penny Arcade is a comic strip about video games. Now there, I don't even begin to have audience numbers, but it's in the millions. And what happens with them is they will rebrand their website with the characters in it to promote the launch of the video game. They'll do supplemental materials for the video game. You remember when E3 decided they didn't want to let consumers in anymore? Well, the Penny Arcade guys were in a position to say, screw you, we're doing our own video game convention. They got an East Coast, they got a West Coast, I hear they may be adding a third. So if you really want to get creative and you've got the base following, the thing with the internet is it's always interesting whether or not you can aggregate an online following into a physical location. They were so large they could. They were also replacing something. E3 threw away an opportunity and they just snapped it up.
Actually, my anime guys are doing that. They do the San Jose anime, and they just did the SAC anime. They do like $2 or $3 million worth of people in 3 days. I mean, like they get 16 million views just from an event from there. They brought in like the Power Ranger people talking about stuff they did 10 years ago.
If you've got the following built up and you can direct them to show up in one place, and that's something you have to plan out 6 months ahead.
Yeah, but
you need some runway. But first you have to gather the following on your own, and that's where the bootstrap part comes in.
So I'm realizing what time it is, so I'm going to just go ahead and take 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll go ahead and break so we can get our 60-second soapboxes. People can kind of talk about what they're doing, and then we can break and actually talk to people individually.
I can get a beer?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Well, this is a follow-up from Penny Arcade. I know PAX is huge. One thing that I've known about Penny Arcade for all the time it's come out is the forum following is very large and very active, similar to Something Awful and a lot of the other major forums out there right now. And so what's really more important? Is it fans or is it forum members? Because that's an active contribution, which is largely different. And I'm just wondering if you have any experience on that.
Well, you have to have the product to bring them into the forums in the first place. The forum will drive it. I'm sorry, the material will drive it. The forum is basically a place for social mixing and reinforcement of the brand. The chicken definitely does come before the egg in that place. However, if you want to do some data gathering, you can see what the reactions to things are in the forum. You can float a question in the forum if you want, which is a little more comprehensive than just running a survey on the site. So they have their uses, but you have to have an audience before you can jump into the forum. And a lot of people will just use the comment section for that. The forums, when you start to have too many comments in the comment section, you shut down the comment section, you shut it over to a forum. And the thing about forums is they're not usually a revenue driver per se, no one wants to put ads on this.
Anyone else want to add anything, or? Cool. All right, let's take 1 more.
So, how many people did you have in your network where you were able to raise money from through Kickstarter? Was it the 1%, or do you think yours was higher?
You mean like personal friends?
Just in terms of there was 3 of you that were promoting your project. How many people did you have? I'm just, rough idea. How many people you had promoting it? And then
I would say it was probably between 2 and 3, and it just caught. That's the thing with the whole aggregation is once you get to the next level and people buy into what you've got, they go to their friends and it gets exponential.
Can I jump on
Yeah.
that? One of the things that I also find is that it's a very clear idea of the movie. Like when you're looking at it, it's stop motion, it's a little dark, and so it's one of those things that I think the communities that Mouchy has immediate access to are animators, they're visual effects artists, and they are also additionally plugged into those networks as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Mouchy has to know where the stop motion forum is that's really big in the Netherlands, but it just so happens that he might be friends with someone who is an active member in there, and then that person, because they have invested and they are actually a part of that, they then propagate that message out to them, and it goes out to them. I mean, it's and at least from my end, I mean, that's how I see it. And
That's very true. Most of the people that I've known over the years are in sort of tech-savvy, entertainment-savvy industries. I was most excited when we made it on like insect websites, which we did. There was like the cicada lady, and she has this whole little tweet thing about cicada stuff, and we was like, whoa.
And I think that speaks of finding your audience. I mean, not necessarily when you're looking at it, like I was just saying, it's like stop motion. It's that might be the very clear niche audience to go to. But you don't realize that there might be somebody who loves fairy tales, and this might be just right up their alley. Or there's somebody who likes insects, and it's their thing. There's finding the right way of getting it into those audiences is important.
There's another webcomic called Goats that is trying to basically relaunch through Kickstarter. And this may not be statistically significant because when he posted the results, he only had about 150 people funding, but he had an obscenely disproportional amount of his contributors come to the Kickstarter site off of Twitter. The second most was Facebook. He had a ton of followers on Google+, practically no donors there, and then a substantial number where it was directly to the site, which to me suggests someone was emailing the address. So he was theorizing, at least early on, that he was benefiting from the power of retweets.
Yeah, because it's open versus Facebook.
Yeah.
You gotta be friends. Yeah.
Sound familiar to you?
No.
Things just happen to you.
Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with the panelists. If you all want to, thank you guys very much for coming by. The next part here is just a 60-second soapbox. We're going to give you 60 seconds to talk about your project. If you're looking for anything, if you are just wanting to talk about it, whatever it may be, this is your chance to come up and talk about it. So why don't we go ahead and get people going, and we'll start your 60 seconds. We're going to have just a couple questions and then move on to Mouchy over here. Does anyone seem to be ready to go?
So what do you see the value of like mobile apps and other digital tie-ins? Are they a way to show early, like we say in the angel space, social adoption or social proof, or to show there's an emerging market? And what do you see things like anime and transmedia, mobile tied-in projects? Like we have one that's already getting pre-funding from TV, a TV show coming out, got a Bank of the Star, and we're trying to figure out what the metrics are in our negotiations because they already like put some money in. So we've already like pre-funded the app on a platform that does that. So we pre-sold units. How do you looked at tying those in, and how do they impact with the offline merch? Because we actually have content and books already being sold already in this content, live events. So that's the question we want to find out. How do you see those tying in and in what you're doing? We can talk offline more.
I think that typically film producers and the major companies, from what I understand, see a lot of the transmedia as collateral, right? Marketing collateral and ancillary, properties that can work with their films to create engagement, long before the film screens, like Planet of the Apes, right? We had the web series out, and I think the film with Tom Cruise, War of the Worlds, had like even like a sidewalk graffiti type of thing that they didn't reveal, for months. And so I think that for a while, I think that some people will still see it as that, right, as a part of the marketing budget. But I think that it will be kind of turning around soon, right? So that, and I know it is. I hear that it is from people that are in the know, right?
Yeah.
That projects are initializing as transmedia projects, right, with their multiple storylines and touch points. So
And they're actually driving a lot of revenue for web-based ones, yeah, a lot of revenue. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Could you briefly describe the types of investors you guys have? And are these people that solicit you, or they find out, are they people that say,